This is the hand control for the Kinetec Centura shoulder CPM. I'm going to cover some of the basics of operation. First, I'm going to show you what's on the hand control. The buttons across the top refer to the motions that are available. This first one says HORABD. It's for horizontal abduction. That is for an optional movement that requires the purchase of one accessory that will change the orientation of the first motor. Not used very often. The next three motions are common. First we have flexion and extension. As with any of these motions, if that's what you want to do, push that button and you will see the light for that come on. So we have flexion and extension. Then we have the button for ab and adduction. Then for rotation. And lastly, this plus button here is for synchronized ab and adduction with rotation. I'm going to select that motion. You'll see that the light up here came on to show that that's the motion. Now if you look at the screen, you'll see that we have a few things listed in the screen. First we have the word sync, S-Y-N-C, and then you have ABD and ROT. You'll see the ABD is currently flashing. That tells me that the numbers that I'm looking at, the values in the screen below there, are what correlate to the abduction settings. I can change this to view the settings for rotation simply by pushing the sync button again, and now ROT for rotation is flashing, and I see that the numbers have changed. So currently my settings are from 0 to 60 degrees of rotation, and my abduction settings are 30 to 100 degrees. In the middle here I see the word stop. The other common word you'll see in there, of course, is run. The number in between there is the number that the machine is at the moment. When it's moving, that's the number that will be changing, and it will be changing from this setting number to this setting number and back and forth. Looking at the rest of the hand control, we have a downward oriented arrow that correlates with this downward oriented arrow right below the screen. We have an upward pointing arrow that correlates over here on this side with an upward arrow below the screen. Those are our lower limit and our upper limit buttons. Inside this white T area we also have a plus and a minus. The concept for any of the parameters we wish to adjust on the hand control is to push the button of the parameter we want to adjust. So in this case, let's say we want to adjust the lower limit, which is currently at 30 degrees. You'll see that the 30 in the screen began flashing. It will do so for a few seconds and then it will go back to a solid display. While it's flashing, I can make an adjustment. So once again, it's flashing, and I can push the plus button a few clicks or push and hold to get it to change quite a bit. If I try to go too far in one direction or another, it will tell me that I've reached the limit. So I can go back away from that and I have dropped it back down to 20 degrees, which is the limit, the lower limit for ab and adduction. Our different limits are for flexion and extension. The machine will go from 20 degrees up to 180. For ab and adduction, it will go from 20 degrees up to 160. For rotation, and rotation alone, I can go from 60 degrees internal, which shows on the screen as a minus 60, up to 90 degrees of external rotation. So minus 60 to 0 to positive 90 gives you a total of 150 degrees of rotation available. An important point to note, if you have selected synchronized rotation with abduction, there are two factors to be aware of. One of which is you will lose 30 degrees of your internal rotation available range. So instead of being minus 60 available, you will now only have minus 30 available. The other feature to note is you cannot have more degrees total of rotation than you do of ab and adduction. For example, if you have 50 to 150 degrees of abduction programmed in, that is a total of 100 degrees of ab and adduction. You therefore cannot have more than 100 degrees total of rotation. That would include your negative numbers to 0 and into your positive numbers. So in this example, if we were at the lower end of minus 30 degrees, we could go from minus 30 to 0 for 30 degrees total, and then an additional 70 degrees to equal a total of 100. We could not exceed that because that's all we have available in abduction.